You know how we praise kids for being easy? For being low maintenance, super independent, or just never causing a fuss? I mean, it's one of the best compliments we can give, right? But what if that praise has a hidden cost? Today, we're going to dive into what happens when being easy to love as a child, well, leads to feeling totally invisible as an adult. And this quote just, wow, it gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? It's asking us to look past the quiet, compliant kid on the surface and ask a much, much deeper question. What got sacrificed to keep things peaceful? What needs were quietly tucked away just so everyone else could be comfortable? So, this brings us to what you could call the easy child paradox. This is the kid who seems to need so little. You know the one. They play by themselves, they don't complain, they help out without even being asked, and for all this, they're celebrated. They become the good kid, the one everyone else is compared to. And think about the kind of praise these kids get. On the surface, every single one of these phrases sounds great. You're so independent. You never cause any trouble. I mean, who wouldn't want to hear that? But these compliments are actually really powerful. They're teaching the child exactly which behaviors will get them approval and affection. And this is where the hidden curriculum kicks in. Because while that child is getting all these external rewards for being good, internally, they're learning a completely different and honestly often damaging lesson. They're learning that the way to be loved is to be quiet and to be self-sufficient. And here's the unspoken trade-off, laid out perfectly. Externally, the world is saying, you're so self-reliant, that's amazing. But internally, that child's brain is wiring a totally different message. My needs are a problem, my needs are an inconvenience. To be loved, I have to pretend I don't have any. It's this quiet, devastating little deal that gets made over and over again. You know, there's actually a name for this whole process. It's a core psychological concept called learned minimization, and it's the engine that powers this entire dynamic, from that first bit of childhood praise all the way to the struggles of adulthood. Now, the crucial thing to get here is that this isn't a conscious choice, not at all. It's a survival strategy that you learn as a kid. Because think about it, for a child, attachment is survival. So you learn, without even realizing it, that your feelings, your wants, your actual needs, they're secondary. They're things you have to push down to keep the peace and, most importantly, to keep getting that praise and validation you need to survive. So you can see how this plays out step by step. First, you get praise for being low maintenance. Then, that praise leads you to internalize this idea that your needs are a problem. So what do? You learn to suppress them, to push them down, to keep the system running smoothly. And the result? Well, you become an adult who feels fundamentally invisible because you've spent your whole life training yourself and everyone around you not to see the real you. All of that programming from when you were a kid, it leads directly to this really painful consequence in your adult life, a paradox that can pretty much define how you relate to everyone. Easy to love, hard to know. Just let that sink in for a second. The very qualities that made you so agreeable and so lovable as a child, your independence, your lack of demands, how helpful you were, those are the exact same things that build a wall around you as an adult. And if this sounds familiar, this is probably what it feels like. You can be surrounded by people who love you, but you feel so misunderstood because nobody actually knows what you need. Asking for help? It can feel almost physically impossible, like you're betraying who you are. Your relationships might feel a little shallow because you're only showing the easy, polished parts of yourself. And just under the surface of it all is that constant, nagging feeling that you are, at your core, a burden. Okay, so let's pull all of this together. When you add it all up, what is the final true cost? What's the real price of being easy? It's that this strategy that worked so perfectly to get you love and keep you safe when you were a kid, it becomes the biggest obstacle to real intimacy and connection when you're older. You've become an absolute expert in being liked, but a total beginner of being truly known. And that leaves us with one last question to just sit with. And look, this isn't about blame or regret. It's about being gently curious. For yourself, or maybe for the people in your life. What needs were so successfully hidden away just to keep the peace that maybe, just maybe, it's finally time to let them be seen.